My name is Rebekah Heller, and I'm a bassoonist, composer, conductor, and artist. I started out as a purely classical musician. I went to conservatory and grad school for bassoon performance, and then I was in the Chicago Civic Orchestra as well as the New World Symphony in Miami. So my career was very orchestral focused. After countless auditions, I did finally win a job in the Jacksonville Symphony Orchestra in 2008, and I accepted with excitement. But around the same time, I had been contacted by members of the group called International Contemporary Ensemble, or ICE. I was invited to New York City to play with ICE for the first time, and I was struck by the passion and the virtuosity and the commitment of all the players and of the audience. And there was something that felt so extraordinarily vital about being part of the process of bringing a new piece to life. So the creative part of working with a composer to me was everything. I started playing more with the ensemble and other groups in New York, but I also started doing more work within the ensemble administratively. And then in 2018, I became co-artistic director of International Contemporary Ensemble. And it was in this role that I started curating upwards of 100 concerts in any given season. But as I began to curate more and become involved with a community of artists, I realized that curating, the opportunity to curate a concert program, it's a very powerful position to be in. It's a very privileged position. It's your job as a curator to say, these are the compositional or musical voices that we should be paying attention to right now. I started to realize that for me, curation needed to come from a values-based place. I began to think, what are my values as an artist? What are our values as a community? And how do I take those values and translate them into what happens on our stages? So we said, whose music is not being heard? Who is underrepresented in this field of classical music in general, but more specifically contemporary classical music? That became the central question and remains the central question. We started focusing a lot on Central and South America, composers from the African diaspora, and then also gender diversity. Composers who identify as female or who are trans or non-binary have also been historically left out of the conversation. And then, who is your audience? Where are you programming? What spaces are you in? What communities are you in? How can you think about the audience experience? And how do you curate based on that? And then you have your third bucket. If you think of these as buckets, your third bucket is practical logistics of making a concert. What is my budget? How many players can I afford? Do we have money for percussion rentals? Is there a piano in the space? So all these pieces speak to one another. And then you have, over all of that, the storytelling aspect. From all of these elements, what are you going to weave together to say, what is the story we're creating? And how do you widen the lens to be like, this isn't my story? But how do you say, what is our story together? So the audience feels really connected and that there's a why behind all of these works you're putting together. One of the most challenging aspects about curating a program of brand new music is how to care for and cultivate the audience experience, especially when you don't even know what the works are going to sound like before you program them. From my point of view, the most important thing is empowering people to feel like they're allowed to have an opinion. And so I think by taking away the sort of formality of the experience, allowing musicians to talk on stage, inviting the composer to come up and speak about their process, inviting the artist to talk about like all of the micro processes that they're doing that might be involved in it, and talking about what's been difficult or hard, and inviting a period of social time after where the audience can share their opinion and feel like they're allowed to be in the space in a full and present way. One of the most important things that I talk about with my students is the necessity of allowing ourselves to identify in many different ways. For example, I identify as a performer and a composer and a curator and an improviser, and. So if I had any advice for younger performers, it's really relaxing into the idea that you are a truly creative being. That you're really good at your instrument and you're really good at interpreting others' music, but a huge part of that interpretation and why it's so exciting is that you're bringing a lot of yourself to the table. You are a creative artist.